Good morning and welcome to the Scrabble Players Championship Day 3 in Hanover, Maryland, outside of Baltimore. I'm Matthew O'Connor and we are joined today by the lovely Elise Bickford.
Hi, Matt. I'm happy to be here.
Today we are starting with Division 2. We want to give you the chance to see some of the up-and-comers, and one of those is Eric Fox. Eric is only the 16th seed here, but he is 11-3. I believe he's in third place. Has to try to catch Ayodele Odekunle, who is fresh off a loss from that exciting game we saw in the last game of yesterday. Eric Fox, 11-3. He has gained 199 rating points, but he is coming off a second place finish at the Bob Lynn Superstars. I think we're going to see a lot more good things from him. What do you think, Elise?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know Eric fairly well, and I know that he studies a lot of words. I was doing flashcards with him, and he has a lot of really obscure, interesting eights and nines in his card box. So I wouldn't be surprised if he, pulled out some fantastic plays. I'm also excited to see Betty, the player that he'll be taking on. She's a veteran player. She's been playing since the 90s. I had the chance to play her in a recent tournament, and she took me down. So I think she could put up a great showing too.
Yeah, I think it's anyone's game, and I'm really excited to see. We've got the players sitting here. I think we're ready to go if the stream management is.
Yeah, let's dive right in.
Betty is shaking. Eric will be drawing tiles soon.
Okay, let's see what Eric is drawing here.
Got a couple of vowels. Got an R. We could still see something good.
Oh.
So yeah, one of those racks there. You might have to look to see something. Not quite a bingo there, at least. How do you decide between short and long in a position like this?
That's a tough choice. I mean, I think I would be trying to get my F onto that double letter score and play long if I could, just to score a good number of points. Eric has a few options here that do that. He could play something like Farsi or fiacre or even force, which is a little bit more of a normal word. But there are also a few short options that might be good. What do you think about those, Matt?
Yeah, foci looks really nice. Eric's going to put down force. This will give Betty a chance to bingo. Well, it's going to be hard to avoid with his rack because the I would have also given out tripodal. But here, Betty will have one bingo through the E.
I think she has two, right?
I'm sorry, yes, prolated and portaled. They're going to be similar options in terms of quality, both scoring 62 points. I think it's going to be more important to just get something down.
But it looks like she might not have seen it, so she's going to go with Claude, which
Eric
I think is maybe, a good option if you're not going to bingo here. Sorry.
Eric with a nice choice. He's got a relatively obscure 7 playable of Sundari, but he also has a double-double through the O. Pretty common word. Let's see if people in the chat can look for it and find it.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, it's always nice when the word you want to see the only one is a double-double anyways. Yeah, he does have one relatively common 7-letter word on his rack, but it doesn't play here. That would be durians. The anagram of Sundari does play pluralizing plod to make plots, but Eric has found dinosaur for 90 points. Very nice.
Excellent. And he found it very quickly, too. This is great that he didn't eat up too much time here. We love to see it.
Yeah, Betty with a little bit of an interesting spot, something that could easily develop into a bingo on the next turn, but she does have a few too many consonants to get something going this time. She's gonna probably have a bit of a tough decision between maybe playing something like tack, TAK, through the A in dinosaur, or maybe trying to score a few more points and maybe make the bingo that she's hoping for get a little bit closer on her next turn. How do you approach these situations, Elise?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to get rid of the K and the T and maybe the P here, and just keep as good of a leave as possible. You kind
Yeah,
of accept that you're not going to be scoring a bunch and just, yeah, hold your nose and maybe play off 2 or 3 tiles here. I'm
yeah,
not seeing
that's great logic. One option to get rid of the K, P, and T would be kept. Do worry a little bit about that because it doesn't take an S, so it kind of gunks up a little bit of the area she might need to come back. But another solid choice if you're worried about consonants.
true. Yeah, I think that's definitely something to consider.
Yes, and as we've seen in the chat, Betty was one letter away from her hometown of Portland, Oregon, that is. Had Eric had an N on his opening rack and put it on the board, we could have seen a very nice, sort of self describing play of Betty playing her hometown.
Yeah, I always forget that that's a playable word. I'm also from the other Portland, so that would have been nice to see, but okay, she's gonna play park, which does get rid of the K. I would like to see her hold on to that vowel here. So I'm not sure if this was the top option, but I can see some logic behind it. It does open up a
Yeah,
little space on the board too.
yes, I think she might be worried about the board maybe going to die quickly if she doesn't act proactively. This also sets up a front hook. That's another way to both score and open up some more space. If she had drawn a consonant, we might be seeing something like POTS, POTTS, and Spark. That would give Betty a couple of lanes and it would score a pretty nice score.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't see that hook, but I like that she's opening up that option for herself.
And Eric with a bit of two different routes to go, actually, maybe even three. He can play queer to the R in dinosaur, which would score very nicely. He can play query or quain, forming parky. This has the advantage of keeping bingo tiles, scoring similarly to queer, and he can also actually extend forced to reinforced. I kind of like that idea because it leaves quay and parky for later. What do you think, Elise?
Yeah, I really like that idea too. It's a bit of an obscure extension. I'm not sure if you would know the word, but holding onto your cue with that U, you're pretty much guaranteed to score well the next turn. But query also scores a bunch of points, so I don't think there's, yeah, too much wrong with this.
Yes, Eric is playing query. Might have liked to see quain just to maybe not open the triple, but query does have the advantage of not putting the Q next to a double letter score.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't want your opponent to just hit back with that next turn.
Betty with seven consonants doesn't have a lot of good options, and she quickly exchanges down to ST, like this idea. She's going to have a lot of bingos in her future, and she's also going to have the ability to hit Spark and maybe reopen to try to score some points and then reclaim some space so she can bingo and come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the exchange here makes a lot of sense.
Eric with a couple of high point letters, maybe a little bit of an embarrassment of riches. One thing that jumps out to me is just simply Zek forming ZE and ER.
Yeah, that looks like a solid option. These turns are always hard. You never know which power tile should I play. Am I missing something super high scoring? But I think, yeah, just taking the points with your Z here Zach scores 47. That seems like a really great option. It also undoubles those E's, which is something you always want to do. It leaves the word BENJ on his rack, which he could maybe play next turn also.
Yeah, I like the idea. I don't think there's a lot of good choices here. I think Zach scores enough points that it's maybe hard to even think about doing anything else. Maybe if Zach was only 40, I would have to think about something, but it is 47. Think at this score 47, it's going to be hard to maybe justify doing something like NACE, NACE, which does get rid of a second N. I think we do have to just put down Zach 47, as Will Anderson likes to say. He would do many different things for 47. So
Yeah, I guess he could also just play John through the U and query, but that opens up another S hook. Does
yeah,
he
I think
might improve? Who knows? But what do you think about that?
I don't think John takes an S,
Oh my gosh, you're right. I've
but
ponied
I
with
like.
John's by accident before, but yes, you're right, it
I
doesn't.
like the idea of John if the Q was a slightly easier tile to work with. Eric is getting to the score where one of the only ways to lose would be a triple triple from his opponent. So if the Q was a little bit harder to deal with, a little bit easier to work with than a Q, I would like the idea of John. And if Betty had something like Filioque or Breloque, Eric would be saving himself from a disaster. This time, as we see, Betty has heaters or reheats. She's probably spelled out cheaters on her rack and thinking of that, so it won't help him. And he puts down Zek. I like this.
Yeah, I think this is a really solid play.
Betty with a bingo rack. She has no place to put down a 7-letter word, but she has a couple of choices for eights. The most common word is probably cheaters. Betty is playing recheats. Recheat does not mean to cheat again. It is a hunting call. She actually is putting down cheaters.
Yeah, I think it's good that she's getting a bingo down here. I think recheats might be a little bit less scary. Putting that S out there, there's a lot of potential for your opponent to maybe score back, but you can't fault something that scores 69 points. So.
Yeah, another thing about cheaters that I like is, as we see on Eric's rack, it's actually pretty clunky. Eric is going to be left with a tough choice between playing something like Jets and just blocking the triple triple, and playing something that's maybe a little bit more balanced that doesn't block. The cool thing about what Betty accomplished is that if Eric actually does just have to exchange or something, she is giving herself a shot at a triple triple. Cheaters actually won my computer simulation. I think the desperation of the situation is a large part of why. So I think she actually did a good job with her relatively limited chances to come back at this score.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I think, yeah, noting this score differential, you do want to be aggressive, and something like cheaters, yeah, seems to be the right idea. And you're always hoping when you're behind that your opponent's going to be in a situation like Eric is in with all of these clunky tiles where he really can't address the threats that you've opened super well. He's going to have to make some sacrifices to do that.
Yeah, and as I've been noted in the chat, I did space on the word jest for some reason. But yeah, jest would be Eric's idea. Another nice thing about cheaters is that it specifically ends in 2 consonants. And the reason why this is important is because if Eric had 7 consonants, he would possibly literally have 0 legal moves that block the triple triple, and that would in fact give Betty a shot at the triple triple. It's a little thing, but when you're way behind, it's a great idea to sometimes end a word in 2 consonants for that reason if you're opening up a triple triple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great subtlety to point out here. And yeah, he's going to go with jest. We like this.
Eric playing jest, it's important to note that from my perspective, I believe all of the best possible plays obstruct the triple triple. It is that important to block an S like that. when you are ahead like this. So just being best, other good choices would be things like stend with the S or something like net next to the S. This is because blocking a triple triple is very important at this lead.
Mhm. Oh, and this is a pretty quick play. What do you think about this map?
I like the idea of scoring points. I'm a little bit worried that AEIII goes sour too quickly. Something like II not being great, but II at least can bingo, and IE setting up a triple triple. I might have liked to see that, but don't hate the heuristic she seems to have in her head, which is score points quickly and give myself time to think for later.
Hmm. Yeah. Would you have considered an exchange here, or do you think you should just keep the scoring pressure on? Because there are
I
still
would
two players on the team.
Yeah, I like the idea of IE. I think she needs to think about. I think a lot of the ways she comes back is by playing IE and then getting lucky with a bingo, and she may need the points of IE to make it closer. We're seeing an overdraw. I don't actually know what Betty drew, but she drew 3 tiles. Eric gave her LT, saw the other tile. We might never know what it is, though. Betty might actually be put in a similar situation next turn where her highest scoring play is QAT, keeping a pretty ugly leave. But, Elise, do you think Eric will play hen and block that spot anyways?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. It scores 37 points, which is really nice. And yeah, I mean, the Q is kind of the only spot I'm seeing with a lot of scoring potential on this board, so you might want to block it. And I guess what back hooks does Aaron take? Because you might worry a little bit about opening up a lane here. But
Yeah, for sure. I do kind of like the idea of saying, hey, the Q is turning into one of the few ways for Betty to come back. Earn taking an S and an E is not ideal, though I believe at this score they wouldn't quite get Betty back into the game.
true, yeah. And what can Betty do now with these 3 eyes? This is kind of rough.
She has one very nice fit, which is the only real way to clean up her rack. It would open up a triple triple, which is good at this score. It is a disconnected 8-letter word through 2 letters on the board. We'll see if people in the chat have seen it yet. Very nice play. Something kind of vaguely related to Scrabble, I would say.
Oh, wow.
See if the chat can see it. That play would be literati through the R and the T in I don't know what Betty is doing. This is not a word. E-tail.
Ooh.
Don't know if
Yeah,
she's.
not sure what she's thinking of here.
Yeah, I don't think this is a word. I don't know if Eric has held. Does not
Looks like
look
he
like
helped.
Betty's
I would
drawing. So
I would expect him to challenge this off. I think he knows his fives pretty well.
yeah, and it's also one of those spots where hey, it's 5 points. Maybe she kept something like II, and I can stick her with the ugly rack for the second straight turn.
Yeah, this is really not a turn you want to be phoning on, because yeah, you need all the time you can get to come back in this game.
Looks like Eric has challenged, so this play will come off the board.
We get to see the great wordjudge.me, thanks to Art Moore for developing this fun tool where we get to see our players' reactions.
You can see his lovely smiling face. He knows he's done something wonderful for us. E-tail we've seen is not a word, so it will come off the board and Betty will lose her turn.
Yeah. Maybe she was thinking of H-Wall or something. Etoile. That's a word, but I don't know.
Eric with the unplayable cowbind. He has one interesting option of wind cheaters. This is not a word I know. This is something I got from being able to generate choices because I'm in the
Wind
mood.
cheaters. My goodness. What does that
Don't know
mean?
if it's correct or not or just fun. I would have a hard time passing it up if I knew it and I was ahead by this much. Might be a little bit of a fun thing to put down on stream.
Yeah, that would be very stylish. Apparently, a wind cheater is a windproof jacket. I had no idea.
Yes. The Brits like to add certain words to the lexicon that we find humorous in America. For instance, you can play the British term childminder, but not the American term babysitter in Scrabble.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
But Eric is playing row instead. I think it's hard to argue with this. It scores a lot more than wind cheaters would have.
Yeah, this looks like a great play. Just getting all your points that you can for that W and kind of gumming up the board a little bit more too.
Betty with the same rack as last time. I think she's trying to open up some space with Ale. Literati was still available. That would have been very nice. But Ale does give her a second spot. She's setting up the T for tail. She still has the E for earn.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric with cowbind again, this time with a blank. It is playable, however, because Ale also takes a front W or B.
Wow. Yeah, cowbind is an interesting one. I wonder if he knows it. I hadn't heard that word before. I guess it's a plant, I think.
I believe it is, yes. There is one high, maybe we would call it a mid-prob 8. If you know anything about Brett Smitheram, it's his favorite word because it is the word that put the world championship away for him. It is his favorite word of him. He has a board with the letters glued into it because he loves it so much, and that is Barachanid on the bottom through the R in cheaters.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah, these turns are always tough. With the blank, you kind of expect to have a lot of options, and with that open E and cheaters, but yeah, he actually needs to be really precise here if he's going to bingo. He only has 2. So I expect him to take quite a bit of time here just to make sure he's not missing anything.
Yeah, Betty has had some success in past tournaments, even though she's struggling in this game. As a shout out, she has won a couple of different tournaments. The Oregon Tile Early Bird in 2008 had some pretty strong players in the mix, like Carl Johnson and Cesar Del Solar. But she did win that. There's also Division Three Nationals in 2005, so she does have a history of some success. Let's not be too critical of the phony. She is pretty old and she has been around and accomplished quite a bit.
Yeah, she's played over 5,000 games, it looks like. That, comes with a lot of experience. You gain a lot from that, so definitely an impressive player.
As we see in the chat, e-tail is a term people are starting to use to talk about online retail, so that might be where she got confused. Eric with a couple of options. Cowbind, would you play Cowbind with the blank W on top of Ale Elise? It does have the advantage of not setting up a triple, and Eric is in a pretty big lead.
Yeah, I think I would do that. You definitely just don't want to open up any opportunities for your opponent to come back if you can avoid it. So I would be trying to choose my most defensive option, and I wouldn't be that concerned about sacrificing some points to do so.
Yeah, Brachanid putting the S1 from the double word scorer. Not a bad choice, I think, because those plays with the double word scorer probably won't come back even if they score 100, so that's another good option. Yeah, I guess in honor of Ozzy Osbourne, we don't mind being a little bit paranoid here because of the score sometimes paranoid doesn't actually mean wrong. It does just mean paranoid.
Mhm. I know there have been situations where I haven't been paranoid enough and I've gotten tripled on and lost a game because of it. So you're definitely always trying to avoid those worst case scenarios.
As we're seeing in the chat, Matthew Tunnicliffe won the NWL division here in 2015, but it was despite playing Betty Cornelison, not because of it, because she beat him in the first round. So she said, "Over my dead body," but Matthew Tunnicliffe won anyways.
Wow, go Betty.
Yeah, very nice. At least being trying to play spoiler. Eric is struggling to find a bingo here. Luckily, I don't think it will be too big of a mistake if he misses. It'll be hard to lose here, and also the options being a little bit uninspiring in terms of bingos. We've got Brackenit opening up the double word score, and Cowbind probably forced to put the blank on top of Ale. So some of his options are a bit uninspiring. Eric is going to play Brio.
Yeah, I like this option if you're not going to bingo. It keeps things tight, gets rid of that B, which is maybe going to hinder you from some of the easier bingos to find. I'd maybe like to keep a vowel, but you have the blank, so that's going to save you if you have a consonant-heavy draw in a lot of situations.
Yes. Betty with an interesting rack. She actually has one bingo, and it is a disconnected 9. But it is a common word, so I think we're going to have a chance to see something pretty cool if she can find it.
Wow. Oh, that's a very cool 9.
Yeah, think we're going to have a good chance of seeing it. It is iteration through the R and the T in Dinosaur and Cheaters iteration. The R and T providing us some excitement this game. We could have seen literati, and we could see iteration if Betty can see it. And I definitely think she's capable of it. It's more about acknowledging that that can be a bingo lane than it is about knowing the word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure if that would be the first spot that I'd be looking in on this turn, but I think once you look at the spot, it's definitely a findable play. Oh, but
Yeah.
she'll just play right there.
Looks like she saw the spot. It can be tricky to even think about 9-letter words. They don't come up too often. Eric with one too many consonants, possibly an argument in favor of playing something, keeping a consonant, keeping a vowel. He's going to struggle here. No E for something like cottoned.
Yeah, what would you do here then if you don't really have any great options?
Yeah, I don't know what I would do here. I think I would probably try to look for a word like cot, C-O-T-T. Just try to get rid of some of the clunk. And Betty has drawn emotion, which is spelled out. I think she's going to play it with male if it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, so in that case, might be good for Eric to try to block that lane. That really is one of the only lanes on the board besides the Aaron hook. So
Yeah, there's probably 3 big ones. On top of Brio is one spot. Hooking Urn is one spot, and on top of Ale is one spot. Probably would like to see him try to obstruct one of them. However, he does have the blank, so there is an argument to just keep them open since he's the one who's probably likelier to bingo, although as we see, Betty with motion. Eric is playing clit. Don't hate the idea. This is very unlikely to go sour since he has bingo tiles and the blank, so he definitely just wants to get a bingo down.
yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. And I think he has a pretty good chance of drawing into something next turn.
Yeah. And Betty's doing a motion here. Elise, what do you think about opening the triple? She's still quite a bit behind after this goes down.
Yeah, I would want to choose the more aggressive positioning. Although you do have to think, okay, Eric just played off 2 tiles. He might be fishing. And if he triples, you're really, really dead. So I guess I could see the justification for maybe being a little bit safer here.
Though I do wonder how often does Eric bingo, but he's forced to go elsewhere with his bingo, and then maybe Betty can get a triple down.
True, that's a good point.
Often it's good to just take any shot you can get with these things. Of course, Eric might choose not to bingo if he's that worried about a triple, and then it would kind of be for moot. Eric with a couple different spots to bingo. The best is probably hooking Earn. He's got a few choices there, like Erodent and Entrolled. Elise, how do you get through the alphabet when you have the blank? Because he's going to have to do that to find one of the Earn hooking words.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much time I have. I think he has a pretty comfortable amount of time, although he is lower than Betty. In that case, I would just be iterating through the alphabet. But if I don't have time to do that, I maybe just look for the vowels first or the most common consonants. I'd probably look at an S here, see if I have anything that starts with an S to hook Aaron. Yeah, it looks like he found Erident, which is good.
Yes, Betty, so close yet so far from. I know you like German, Pfennig, one of the coins
Yes.
in Germany, I believe. Fortunately, not quite.
It is, yeah, a word for a penny, too. Oh, he had something through the A of emotion, too. I wonder if... Oh, no, sorry. He didn't. I got my quackle wrong. Yes.
Yeah,
Is a great option.
you did ultimately choose the safer option. I believe this time it'll save her from a triple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would have had teardown through that A. But
Yes, that would
just
be
not.
a fortunate situation for Betty, even though it may have been the right call to kind of go for broke. As it stands, Betty not quite having a bingo. Maybe she will give up and play something like painting. Does score as well as she's gonna get here.
Yeah, at a certain point, you just want to think about spread and how can I kind of save myself from losing by over 100 points. So I think painting is a good option, just scoring 30.
That ship may have sailed as we had not accounted for the score of a rodent. Eric is up 180. Betty might be looking for a more open board if she wants to try to cut the spread. There is still a blank unseen, and as we know, Eric does not have it. Rodent, although it might not look like it, does take an S, so there is a lane for bingos ending in an S.
Oh, this is an interesting option. Just extending jest. What do you think about this, Matt?
I like the idea. It does take an S. I wonder if Betty is aware of that. It's just the act of jesting as opposed to just a present participle verb.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. That's nice then. It sets up another S hook.
Yeah, Eric is in a little bit of a weird spot. It might look like he has a nice X play. There's no supreme option though. The highest scoring X play is just simply XO, keeping not a great lead EE of EG GLI.
He also could pass up an X play here and just save it for next turn. He has plays like, I guess, Gleg or Leggy, if those go somewhere. Just getting
Yeah,
rid
I
of
wonder if we're going to see maybe some sort of attempt at just obstructing with a couple bingo lanes. They are kind of all next to each other in a way where a play in a specific spot could block most, if not all of them. Something like legit, it's only 8 points. It does turn the board a lot harder to work with. It partially obstructs maybe all three of the real bingo lanes, which is pluralizing erodent, pluralizing jesting, and going to the left of a rodent. Would you think about something like that, Elise?
I would. I think these kinds of turns are sort of fun because you don't have to think about scoring so much, so you can really think about how you want to shape the board. And I like the idea of playing in that quadrant and just trying to obstruct as much as possible in one go.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to lose here for Eric, so a lot of it is about preserving spread. That said, 30 points is 30 points. Don't hate the idea of maybe waiting one turn to do something super defensive. 30 is a lot, and it'll be harder to open up the top left now for Betty, so I like this idea.
Betty is quickly going to put down flop. I don't know. What do you think about this, Matt?
I think it's hard to argue with going there. Another option would have been the word flob, but both of them accomplished the goal of scoring 36 without using a vowel.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to do here. You don't want to be in a situation where you have all these consonants but no vowels. And yeah, this is a pretty easy way to score a bunch of points.
Yeah, now Eric with a rack, he's got the S, so now he can, if he knows jestings, he can play something like Vigs, which is really nice because it obstructs all three of the possible bingo lanes that are still there. I like the idea of just doing it. We know Eric has the S, but he is looking into a pretty scary pool, so don't hate the idea of being a little bit paranoid here and just trying to get to the end without Betty bingoing. There's still an S and a blank unseen.
Yeah, I guess he also could put the S onto arrogance if he's a little bit more confident of that hook. I know I wouldn't be 100% confident of jestings. And when you're ahead, you don't really want to just lose a turn because you played a phony. So,
Yes,
but yeah, I like the idea of using the S and kind of trying to block some stuff here.
Yeah, Eric has spelled out gives. I'm curious which area he is planning on putting this in. We'll see if he's sure of jestings.
Mm-hmm.
And he is going to play two things. So he does know the hook. It is a word. I wonder if we're going to see a challenge. Those ing words are pretty tough.
Yeah, I'd probably throw 5 points onto this one, especially in Betty's situation where you're just looking for chances anywhere you can get them.
It looks like no challenge. She's been around long enough to see some things like that. Betty in a tough spot with 6 consonants. I don't know if there's much to do other than go to the left of gives with something like bam.
Yeah, that's all I'm really seeing here. The options are not great. You're probably only going to be able to play 3 or 4 tiles, and you're going to have to use your A to do it. So
yeah, we'll see what Betty can come up with. She can't even exchange at this point. I believe there's only 5 tiles in the bag, so she does probably just have to struggle through some consonants. She's going to play Vav, one of Scrabble players' favorite Hebrew letters, because it is a way to really clog up the board. The V being the only letter in Scrabble that takes no hooks to form a 2-letter word, so playing with 2 of them is sure to be double trouble for your opponent.
absolutely.
And yeah, at this point, it is simply about preserving spread. One good way to do that is to draw the blank out of the bag at the end, which Betty has done. Eric with AAGILOW, not too many things to worry about, but he will try to preserve as much spread as he can, with this tournament being possibly based on spread.
If he wanted to go for style points, he has a really cool play extending the RE, going down all the way to the G in gives.
Yeah, regalia, a term for the attire of a royal. This might actually just be the best play anyways. It does obstruct the area where Betty is probably thinking about something like bum. and it leaves whoa on row 14. Sorry, the N column, whoa for 29. One of those things that's based on ordering. Maybe I want to block bum because I think it'll make it easy for Betty to go out with bum and something else. Maybe I want to block that first, and I'll go with regalia followed by whoa.
Yeah, that's a great point. In an endgame, you always want to be thinking about the order in which you play things. Do you play your long play first or your short play first? And yeah, I think there would have been some merit to long to start.
Eric playing Gaw, computer simulation confirming that this is the best way to try to get as much spread as possible. Very nice choice.
Yeah, nice one. And would you use your blank here if you were Betty to try to score some points, or would you save it for an outplay?
Yeah, this is always tough. The thing about these end games is that it's often about leaving an outplay for your next turn, and often it's easier to do that by saving the blank. On the other hand, oftentimes you need the blank to be a specific letter to maybe block something for your opponent. So I think you kind of have to think through both options and maybe do some counting. I see a play of bound through the O in plod. That might be the best way to ensure I have an outplay. Seemingly, it would be pretty tough to go out with 3 consonants in the blank because there might only be one spot. So not sure if Betty wants to do something like bum here. Might only leave her with one spot to go out.
She also has something like be mud, which is a bit of a strange word. We saw be dung yesterday as a word. It's a similar thought. That could go next to jives, and that would leave her with NT, which I guess she could play out with tan, or I don't know if she would have a second out.
Yeah, one option I see is tub. Tub would play to the left of gives, and Tub would leave her with mound through the O in plod, or something like mand, M-A-N-D, underneath irate. So you can see there appears to be ways to go out and two that use the blank or don't use the blank, wait on the blank. Seems like she could probably go either way. One more option I see is Dunam to the right of gives, which blocks Eric's highest scoring choice of salvo. The Dunam being a biblical term, some sort of measurement of area. It is used in modern day Israel, but it means something slightly different. I believe it means 100 square kilometers as opposed to the biblical term to try to remain in line with modern measurements such as the kilometer.
Wow, very interesting.
So Dunam might be the move because it blocks a 24-point play of salvo. Seemingly there's ways to go out in two with or without the blank. If Eric had a higher scoring play, say using his S in a triple lane, maybe that's an argument for starting with the blank play. Yeah, can probably go either way.
Another play that blocked salvo here was bent next to Ga, which was Makondo's preferred play when I ran the endgame solver. But she's going to go with bum. I think this makes some sense.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea. I think maybe if there's an issue with this play, it's because it only leaves her with one outplay. I only see at the moment something like dint or dent or tinned to the underneath irate on the left of the board.
Yeah, and I think Eric is probably not going to waste too much time trying to block her outs. I think he might just want to grab as many points as he can for himself.
Yeah, he's probably also thinking that his only way to really block the outplays is something like LOS underneath, and that leaves a pretty poor leave. I think it might be worth it this time. but barely.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Betty is going to go out with, I guess, 10,
Yeah,
right?
that was available too. I messed up. So yeah, Betty did manage to give herself 2 outs, so her play was probably pretty comparable in quality to the computer preferred play of bunt. Betty with what I assume to be 10, because I don't think anything else forms a valid play. She will get 15 and 8 off of Eric's rack. So
Nice. Yeah, tough game for Betty. I mean, she found some great plays with the bingo of emotion and cheaters, but just couldn't really get something to materialize here. And Eric played very precisely.
yes, Eric did a good job. I really like to see something like just blocking the triple triple. You had to see one of relatively few choices with a rodent. Did a very good job. Our next game will be Alec Seaholm versus Austin Shin. But for now, I believe we're going to do a brief overhead cam sesh.
Yeah, let's see if we can hear what the players are discussing right now.
Do you know, is it an adjective? No, that's what. It does take it as, okay. The removal of the corporate officer from his office.
So it looks like they might just be submitting their scores now. I think they were discussing whether emotion took an S, which it does. But let's cut back.
Yeah, we are going to do 3 more games in this morning session. I'm excited. We are going to switch back to Division 1. We have just started doing repeats in the Division 1 Collins. The matchups between the top players were getting stretchier and stretchier, so we've decided to do some repeats.